As India pushes to become a global manufacturing and export powerhouse, logistics could be the invisible engine driving that ambition forward.
India's logistics and infrastructure story is entering a new phase of scale, integration and strategic transformation. With the government pushing massive investments through the National Infrastructure Pipeline, PM Gati Shakti, Bharatmala, Sagarmala, dedicated freight corridors and the multimodal logistics parks, the country is attempting to build a globally competitive supply chain ecosystem.
हमारी लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट 16% आती थी, 14 to 16%, चाइना की 8% और यूरोपियन कंट्री और अमेरिका की जो है वो 12%। और चेन्नई और खड़गपुर आईआईटी ने लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट पर एक अध्ययन किया और उन्होंने कहा कि रोड के कारण अभी ये कॉस्ट अभी 6% कम हुई है।
The ambition is massive. Over 14,000 infrastructure projects under execution, more than 65,000 kilometers of highway connecting districts and industrial corridors, over $100 billion earmarked for port modernization, and a long-term vision to reduce logistics costs while improving freight efficiency across road, rail, waterways and ports. India today transports nearly 6.3 billion tons of freight annually, but logistics costs still remain elevated compared to global benchmarks.
India's logistics sector just got a verdict from the man who controls it. Delhivery CEO says there is simply not enough volume left for more than 3 players to survive. And quick commerce, he says only one company can realistically turn profitable. One. In a market where billions have been invested, where 10 minutes delivery have become a consumer expectation that is not a prediction. That is a structural diagnosis and its implications go far beyond the last mile. Hi, this is Indraneel and welcome to the Spotlight Media and Technology. Let's establish where Indian logistics actually stands today. India's e-commerce logistics market is one of the fastest growing in the world, estimated at over $6 billion annually and expanding at 15 to 20% year on year, driven by platforms including Flipkart, Amazon and Meesho. But growth has not meant profitability or survival for all. Delhivery, India's largest third-party logistic provider, acquired Ecom Express in April 2024 in what the industry called a fire sale for just 1,407 crore. Ecom Express, backed by Warburg Pincus, had been a credible number 2 in the market. Declining market share and mounting cost pressure ended that story rapidly. Express Bees, spun off from FirstCry a decade ago, reported an 85% increase in losses to 370 crore for financial year 25. The consolidation isn't coming, it is already here. Delhivery's co-founder and CEO Sahil Barua has now made the clearest public statement any India logistic leader has made about market structure. His words direct and unambiguous. You already have Blue Dart, Delhivery and Shadow Facts, all of which have strong competitive positions in our respective segments. It is very difficult for another independent third-party e-commerce logistics company to survive, whether that's Express Bees or anyone else. And then, the problem is that there simply isn't enough incremental volume left to capture because the rest of us have already established strong positions. At the same time, costs are rising. Fuel, labor, infrastructure, the 3 cost lines that never go backward in logistics are all moving upward simultaneously. Barua said there is still room for 1 or 2 players to exit the market, and he used the word gracefully. That word choice matters. It signals that the consolidation is not chaotic. It is structural, inevitable, and already in motion. India's logistics consolidation is not unique. It follows a pattern seen in every major market globally. In the United States, UPS, FedEx and Amazon Logistics now dominate what was once a fragmented market of dozens of carriers. The 2019 collapse of Roadies and the 2023 bankruptcy of Yellow Corporation, once America's largest trucking company, showed that even scaled players are not immune. In China, the express delivery market consolidated around SF Express, JD Logistics, Cainiao and Zepto YTO STO cluster. Smaller operators were absorbed or eliminated. In Europe, DHL, DPD and every control the majority of last mile e-commerce delivery. The pandemic era entrants have largely exited or merged. The global pattern is consistent. Logistics is a scale business. Network density, route optimization and technology investment create winner-take-most dynamics. India is following the same arc, just compressed into a shorter time frame. Now to the story inside the story. Quick commerce. 10-minute delivery, dark stores, massive capital burn. One of the most watched and most debated business model in global consumer tech. India's quick commerce market is dominated by three players: Blinkit, owned by Eternal, formerly Zomato; Instamart, owned by Swiggy; Zepto, the standalone challenger preparing for an IPO. Blinkit reported an operating profit of 37 crore for the January to March quarter after breaking even in December 25. That is the first meaningful profitability signal from any quick commerce player at scale globally. But Barua, who served on Swiggy's board until April 25, made a pointed observation. Blinkit has done a great job of demonstrating that there's money to be made in quick commerce. The bigger question is whether all the players can make money at the same time. It is hard to see how. And on sustainability, the industry is still subsidizing consumers. Once you add up the capital expenditure, the overall economic cost of the business is very high. Demand for 15 minutes delivery has been established, but it remains unclear, he said, whether it will sustain once discounts and incentives are withdrawn. One of the most strategically revealing observations Barua made concerns Amazon and Flipkart. Both global e-commerce giants have entered quick commerce, but Barua's read on their motivation is sharply different from the conversational narrative. He said their push into quick commerce is not primarily a growth strategy, it is a defensive play. They don't want consumers shifting their purchases to platforms like Blinkit or Instamart, he said. In other words, Amazon and Flipkart are in quick commerce to protect their high-value consumer base from migrating to 10 minutes delivery platforms, not because they believe quick commerce is a structurally superior business. This is a critical governance and strategic distinction. Capital is being deployed defensively, not to create new value, but to protect existing market position. At scale, that is an expensive strategy with uncertain returns. Now, through the Spotlight Media and Technologies lens, let's apply ESG and governance principles to what is happening in Indian logistics and quick commerce. Honestly, both sides. The positive case. From a governance standpoint, market consolidation in logistics, when it results in fewer, stronger, better capitalized players, can improve systematic reliability. Shipper, seller, and consumers benefit from logistic providers that can invest in technology, safety infrastructure, and workforce quality. Delhivery's acquisition of Ecom Express, however, it appeared as a fire sale. Preserved network capacity and protected jobs that is disorderly collapse would have eliminated. From a social ESG standpoint, India's logistics sector employs millions of workers in delivery, warehousing, and supply chain operations. Consolidation into financially stable entities creates more durable employment with better prospects for formal employment contracts, social security coverage, and gig worker protections that India's labor framework is still developing. Quick commerce, for all its economic questions, has created a new category of hyper-local employment in urban India. Delivery partners, dark store staff, and supply chain workers in Tier 1 cities have benefited from the rapid infrastructure build-out. The governance and ESG concerns, and they are significant. First, the gig economy governance gap. India's quick commerce boom is built on the labor of delivery partners classified as gig workers outside the formal employment framework. No provident fund, no health insurance, no job security.
Boom is set to go bust, and this stark warning is coming in from none other than the CEO of one of the biggest quick commerce platforms in India, Blinkit. Albinder Dhinsa has recently said that the quick commerce sector is currently heavily reliant on aggressive funding and a correction could well be on the cards.
As Zepto prepares for an IPO and Blinkit scales profitability, the governance questions of who bears the economic risk of the model is not being answered clearly.
Major quick commerce companies in India have dropped their 10-minute delivery claims after the Union Ministry stepped in over rider safety concerns. That is according to media reports quoting government sources. The reports show Labour Minister Mansukh Mandavia held discussions with Blinkit, Zepto, Swiggy and Zomato, urging them to remove rigid delivery timelines. To Wion's query, Blinkit said they do not have a statement on this. The ministry flagged that aggressive delivery promises could put undue pressure on delivery partners and increase safety risks on the roads.
Globally, the EU Platform Work Directive enacted in 2024 requires platforms to correctly classify workers and provide social protections. India has no equivalent framework yet. Second, the consumer subsidy problem. Barua's observation that the industry is still subsidizing consumers is an ESG red flag, not just a financial one. Businesses built on sustained consumer subsidies create market distortions, crowding out sustainable competitors, creating artificial price expectations and ultimately transferring risk to investors when the subsidies end. Third, the environmental cost of quick commerce. Dark store proliferation in urban areas drives significant increase in last-mile vehicle trips, packaging waste, and urban congestion. A 2023 McKinsey study estimated that rapid grocery delivery generates up to 40% more carbon emissions per order than consolidated weekly shopping. India's quick commerce players have no published Scope 3 emission frameworks. That is a material ESG disclosure gap as these companies approach public markets. Fourth, market concentration risk. A three-player logistic market and one or two-player quick commerce market creates systematic fragility. If delivery faces operational stress, India's e-commerce supply chain has no adequate backup. Regulators and policymakers need to consider resilience frameworks for critical logistics infrastructure analogs to how banking regulators treat systematically important institutions. Step back and look at the full picture. India is building one of the world's most sophisticated e-commerce and quick commerce ecosystems at a speed and scale that rivals China's and significantly exceeds anything seen in Europe or the US at comparable income levels. That is genuinely remarkable. But the governance infrastructure, worker protections, environmental standards, market resilience frameworks, and disclosure requirements is not keeping pace with the commercial infrastructure.
You can't build a manufacturing economy with poor logistics.
Sahil Barua's comments are valuable precisely because they come from inside the system. When the CEO of India's largest logistics company say only three players can survive and only one e-commerce player can realistically profit, that is not pessimism. That is an honest assessment of what sustainable market structure looks like. The question for policymakers, investors, and regulators is, do you let this consolidation happen by attrition with the human and financial cost that entails? Or do you build the governance frameworks now that make the transition orderly, equitably, and transparent? 10 minutes delivery is an extraordinary achievement, but extraordinary achievements carry extraordinary governance responsibilities. The workers who make it possible, the environment that absorbs its cost, the investors who funds its losses, and the consumers who will eventually pay its real price all deserve frameworks that reflect the true cost of the model. Follow the Spotlight Beyond Profession for the analysis that goes beyond the headlines. Beyond profession, beyond headlines, beyond borders. Thank you very much for watching and signing it off.